Hello. Welcome to the philosophy night, the first one of 4 terms. It's based on the Uttaratantra, which is one of the main textbooks studied in Tibetan monasteries, and dealing with 7 key universal Mahayana Buddhist teachings. Lama Choedak Rinpoche heard this text from the late Khenpo Kedrup in Lumbini in 1974. And these classes are suitable to everyone, regardless of your religious interest. These courses for free, but donation is encouraged to promote the Buddhist practice of dana, generosity. Hope you all enjoy the teachings by Lama Choedak Rinpoche.
Thank you, Anthony. Hello, everyone. Well, zooming once again. Oh, you're all very good zoomers now. We can just instantly arrive through the rays of the sun, or even when there's no sun rays, there's still wireless frequency. You're arriving through the wireless frequency. I hope that you all have a good space. And very good that you all have allow your time on this Tuesday night. We indeed have a good material to base the teachings on, and so sit back and bring your full attention to the contents, subject, structure, meaning, and what might be possible application in our everyday life as well. Before we actually do the formal teachings, it is the role of the teacher reminding everybody to constitute a good motivation, that our listening itself, the duration of listening itself, never mind how much you actually get from the listening, but very manner of listening and attention itself becomes a very good practice. Devoid of 3 faults of a pot that is put upside down, that means one is not interested, or that pot that is leaking, that even if you hear them, you forget them, which these days it's all on YouTube, so you can't say I can't remember. You can always go and watch the YouTube again. So there can't be many leaking pot, because YouTube is not leaking, YouTube is always there for you. And so even you didn't take a lot of notes, but you can always go and listen to that. So, and third fault of the pot is probably a little difficult, the pot that is not clean. So that means the person's intention or attention or lack thereof, or not quite the correct attitude, or some sad feelings of one's own life, or becoming a little bit disenchanted, or not really believing in some of the concepts. And all of those will interfere in getting the teaching. So try to avoid any of the impediment in listening to the teachings. And so therefore, instead you develop the 4 right perceptions. 4 right perception is that seeing the teaching as the medicine, seeing the teacher, the Buddha who gave the teachings, as the physician, as the doctor, and seeing ourselves as the listeners and sentient beings as a kind of a patient who's seeking medication. and it can't be wrong because you already maybe into some medication anyway. So if you're already medication, you are getting meditation. So maybe you're learning so the teaching itself is a medicine, and us listening and paying attention and practicing is getting well. You will really get well. Quite a lot of people are not so well in their perceptions and the views and opinions and emotions and memories. They are sick with those memories. You will learn how to drop those sick memories, sick views, sick opinions. So actually you learn to get well even just by listening to the teaching. They say listen as if a deer while munching its grass heard a flute played by somebody. It will stop even munching the grass and listen to it, the deer. So put all things aside and listen to the true melody of the Dharma that is so true, that is so necessary to our ear consciousness to hear the Dharma. Fortunate indeed is those who have a good audience to hear the Dharma, the truth that excels all things that we seek to find. And you can see yourself recovering. You can see yourself recovering, improving. A person who has been taking a medicine for a few days, they wouldn't be taking the pill again and again unless there's sign of improvement. You will see, you are reconstituting your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. You're slowly learning to recover yourself from this poor me mentality, and therefore you're actually starting to get well. And that is the one of the kind of incontrovertible nature of the teachings of Buddha, is that whoever get to listen or read, they will benefit. They don't have to change their religion, they don't have to change the color, they don't have to change how they wear the hat, or don't wear a hat, or cut the hair, or shave. That's not necessary. You just have to cut the wrong views. You have to shave the wrong views. There's wrong views we have to shave, What's the point of shaving without shaving the wrong views? The great 13th century Sakya master Trakpa Gyaltsen said, he says, without shaving off the wrong conception, what's the point of shaving the hair? Yes. So lots of people think if they shave and they change that robe, then they think change, It's so easy. No, but you need to, when you're listening to the teaching, when your mind reconstitute, then you'll find. They say if you listen to the Dharma with these four right attitudes, then you will naturally you are practicing the 6 paramitas. If the right motivation with which you're listening for the benefit of yourself and others and so on and so forth, the very time that you give, the time is very precious for most people. To give whole hour and a half on a weeknight after a whole day's work is quite a big commitment. You should give that as a gift of Dharma to yourself. You're listening, and you're paying attention, and a lot of people contributing to make these activities happen. These are generosity. These are generous. Everybody's dana makes this teaching possible to give. We have time. We have people who are giving their time and energy and skill and support make these teachings available. I can't make it available by myself. I just don't know. I don't know how to handle these things, these machines. Do these, all the steps are so difficult. I rather look at my mind than those list of things. So it's all because of people's generosity. We need to rejoice that, and that is generosity. And then listen with good discipline, while not try to do other things, while not listening, looking at the other devices or doing other things. Not that kind of distraction, that kind of pot that is dirty. If you do that, then the listening wouldn't be so effective. So avoiding all of that, put everything aside and listen, that becomes the right discipline. That's a discipline of listening. Shila paramita. And then even you'll find a little bit difficult, concepts a bit much, and a little whatever physically tiring, or you're a little bit tired or sleepy, and you still forbear with them. You still be patient, and that's perfection of shanti paramita. Yeah, you're already practicing patience with your body, with with the Zoom transmission, and so on. Very good. Even when you're doing that, you're not sort of disenchanted, or you're sort of not a crook, but you're still delighted by the truth of the Dharma and the need of it to the world to heal the wounds that are made by one's own selfishness. And with such delight and joyfulness, and listen, that's a virya paramita, that's a perfection of diligence. And then we pay a lot of attention during the teachings. We concentrate, just as a meditation itself. Because these are very, very sacred texts written some, 1400 years ago, and still relevantly start as a textbook. Whose textbooks has been studied for 1400 years and still not out of date? So therefore, listening to the meanings of this and paying attention is dhyana paramita, is a meditative concentration. Even when you're listening, you're using your rational mind and reasoning, not just believing in some kind of words, but try to understand and comprehend and have a deep appreciation of the wisdom and insight that this teaching has, and therefore making oneself needing to listen. So with these things, if we listen, even sometimes my presentation is all over the place, you still will be practicing 6 paramitas. Even I'm talking a lot of nonsense, but still you are practicing 6 paramitas. But if I'm guided by these texts and your attention and my good intention and hopefully some concentration, then I will also have some little benefit, however feeble my effort might be. So we will all have great benefit. So thank you, everyone. So before we start the actual text of teaching, we will do the refuge, so that we will cultivate those qualities we mentioned for the benefit of all sentient beings. We pay homage to our Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and we want to do this listening and contemplating on the teaching for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we will do the refuge prayer and 4 immeasurables. So we'll screen share it just in case those people don't know. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Asanga Aje Refuge Ladam Vajra Ayendala Ajare Vadavadrube and Abu Dadarama Asanga Ajere Vijaladam Bhavaja Ayendala Ajare Vadavadrube and Abu Dadarama Asanga Ajere Vijaladam Bhavaja Ayendala Ajare Vadavadrube. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know apart from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know apart from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and the cause of me de bivre from suffering, and the cause of suffering. Me de never from the happiness that knows no suffering. Me de equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. God to the intelligent and breadth possession of it, where the yet and the Lama agrelo and common vehicles. So the subject matter of this teaching belongs to the great vehicle. We were talking about great, low, and common vehicle. This belongs to the Mahayana teachings. Fully enlightened Buddha gave amazing body of teachings, as many as 84,000 discourses. Some of them are very short conversations, others a little bit longer. All of them constitute what we call Buddha Vajra. Buddha Vajra means these are words of the Buddha itself. And Buddha Vajra are the direct words of the Buddha, or endorsed by him, or blessed by him, or caused by him. So these are all called Buddha Vajra. We call Sangyika Buddha Vajra. This is Kangyur. And then the Tengyur is the Shastras. These are commentaries. So then the commentaries are written by many Indian Mahapanditas, scholars, great scholars, and great adepts and Mahasiddhas. These are called Shastras. So these Shastras are called Tengyur in Tibetan. In Tibetan Buddhist canon, we have Kangyur, which has 108 volumes, and Tengyur, which is 200, about 16 volumes, double that, because they are all commentaries to the Kangyur. So both Kangyur and Tengyur, subject is same. Subject is same, but Tengyur is being commentary literature. It explains things that are already in the sutras, Vinaya, and Abhidharma. So our subject of this teaching is Shastra. So therefore, the Shastra is necessarily a commentary literature written by Indian Mahapanditas. So tonight is our first introductory lesson for this text. Did you all receive the one-page handout? Oh, good. So I will go a little bit in terms of introducing the background of the text. Some seems like a bit mythological. I'm quite 21st century in the sense I don't want to entertain you the mythological aspect of it. I think we had enough of this belief that Nagarjuna lived 600 years and Shantarakshita lived 900 years, and they never celebrated the anniversary of the teachers consecutive years, and they forgot, and they edified the teacher's life fictitiously. So quite a lot of mythological stories are unnecessary. So I'm not going to go over it. I will talk about the factual stories that I think has a good reason to challenge the mythological stories, the origin of this text, Anyway, the very historical person who is very attributed is Asanga. Asanga is one of the 6 ornaments and 2 great, excellent Indian Nalanda Panditas, among which Asanga is one of them. In recent years, His Holiness Dalai Lama has enlarged the the Nalanda Panditas into 17 of them, not just six ornaments and 2 excellent. Good on him. His Holiness is a lot more inclusive than the old days. They only had 8 of them. So His Holiness included all 17 of them. Anyway, Asanga is undisputedly one of those beacon of Indian Mahapanditas. I would like to say a little bit about the well-known story of Asanga. Asanga's birthplace is modern Pakistan. And that was in 4th century. In 4th century there was a Buddhist nun near Peshawar, I think. And she found very disgruntled because the Buddhism around the 3rd century was already going through some upheavals. Particularly, that area was totally Buddhist and Mahayana Buddhist. And she, as a Buddhist nun, decided to disrobe herself, saying that there's not enough strong Buddhist scholars. If she married and with as many men as possible, and if she produced some sons, they can become monks and they can become upholders of the Dharma. So she went on and befriended a king who fathered her son called Asanga. And also she befriended a very influential Brahmin. I don't know whether it was within the wedlock or not, probably outside the wedlock. and then she gave birth to Vasubandhu. These are called Asanga and Vasubandhu are brothers, She also had a relation with somebody else that gave birth to the 3rd son. I don't know what happened of him. There's not much to be heard about him, at least in the Buddhist circles. Anyway, her successful plan actually gave birth to these amazing 2 boys, and both of whom studied Buddhism in Theravada and Mahayana, and Asanga became very great scholar in the mind-only school tradition, and so on and so forth. And his younger brother Vasubandhu became great scholar in Theravada tradition, and he's basically author of Abhidharma Kosha. So these 2 figures are very important in the Buddhist literature, generally speaking. And the story goes, probably this one, some of you who have attended this last year's teaching, during which we studied the Perfection of Wisdom by Rongten, where the story goes, he says that it's actually not, there is a belief that Asanga meditated and had the vision of Maitreya Buddha appeared in his meditation after 12 years of very difficult meditation retreat. Even though he was already a great scholar and he written Buddhist texts like Abhidharma Samuchaya and various things, but nevertheless he really had a very strong urge to become a devotee of future Buddha Maitreya. And the traditional mythological story thinks that he actually saw Maitreya, and Maitreya took him to Tushita and gave these teachings in Tushita heaven, and then he brought them from there on the earth. But I'm not going there. I'm not going to accept that version of the story. Not because I know anything, but Rongten, 15th century Tibetan scholar who wrote many commentaries on this text, and he said it actually was Asanga's story is correct, that he meditated 12 years. First 3 years he meditated in a cave and with a strong wish to see Maitreya. And his meditation didn't yield any convincing benefit, so he decided to give up meditation, and he was leaving his cave. And then as he was leaving his cave, he just heard this noise. And when he heard his noise, he looked, and then just beside his cave, there was a small bird nest, which was on the face of a very rough, rocky cliff. And then, but the door around where the birds come and went and in and out was so smooth, like a conch shell. And no effort to make it made it smooth by the bird, But just because they keep coming and going to feed the youngs and go look for food, come back again, because they have to always flapping their wings because otherwise they fall down, you know. They flap their wings, they touch the cave so much, and then they feed the young boys, the young chicks, and then fly again, go look for food, come back again. And this over flapping their wings on the cave so many times had made the rock face so smooth. And he says, look, the sheer effort to tenderly look after their young, to feed them, the bird has made such a rough face of rock this smooth. Maybe my effort is too feeble. So he changed his mind. Instead of giving up his retreat, he went back another 3 years. Another 3 years, yeah? And then same time, after 3 years, another second 3 years, he still was not happy with his meditation. He couldn't see Maitreya. Maitreya never showed up in his meditation. Maitreya was his deity, but Maitreya didn't show up. So he was leaving. Again, on the way down, he saw this amazing, this was a rocky place. In the West Pakistan is a very rocky place. And then he saw this beautiful place where the water has been dripping from the upper cliffs, the rock, and where the water has been dropping on the rock has made a very nice hole, completely formed by just continuous drop of the water has formed this rock, has been so worn away. Then he says, look, every single drop of water, no single drop did it, but all continuous drop of water did it. So maybe my drop has been not quite enough. So he went back again. So that's the second time. And third time, he did another 3 retreat and still no great outcome. He had a very high expectation. Maybe he was already fairly good, but he still couldn't be so contented with his meditation. So he gave up, he wanted to go. But he still was disappointed that he didn't see Maitreya Buddha. And then this time, he has already left the rocky cliff area. He was walking the main road, and there he met a very old man who was holding a big iron kind of rod, which seems like a very big for him to hold. And then he was sort of rubbing this feather on this, and there was a shiny bit coming out. And he asked, what are you doing that for? He says, I wanted to make a needle. I want to make a needle. And he said, just to make a needle, people are willing to put this kind of helpless effort. Maybe my effort has been too small. So then again, but he was good. Asanga is quite Asanga. Asanga means unobstructable, He was obstructed by his doubts, but he was not obstructed by faith. Every time he looked at someone, his faith got revived. He went back. Now this is the third time, Third time he got back. And then in the meantime, he finished 12-year meditation retreat. Still, he didn't see any. He said, now he really want to give up. He doesn't want to go back, no matter what inspires him to go back. He decided to leave. He left the cave. And he left the cave, and he didn't want to even pursue trying to see Maitreya this time. And then the story goes like this. And then he gave up. He was walking, and he all of a sudden he discovered this old dog whose half body is completely infected by whatever disease and covered in maggots, and half body is still in one piece. She was dragging her body, but every inch she drags, she screams because it hurts. And then yet she's infected by so many maggots. And he says, what the hell I've been doing in the cave? I could have been down here and saving these kind of beings. And so he had no doubt, but he need to show his kindness, loving kindness, love, Maitri Bhavana. He wanted to practice true Maitri Bhavana with loving kindness. He wanted to save the dog, but he doesn't want to hurt any of the maggots. But to remove the maggots, that meant the maggots will go hungry. So he was in a dilemma. What are you going to do? And so he said, then he realized he needs to remove each of the maggots harmlessly from the dog so that the dog and the maggots can all be saved. Only way he can do that was not using anything but by his tongue. He wanted to lick one by one and then move the maggots. And he had developed this unconditional loving kindness, which means Maitri Bhavana. So he actually saw Maitreya because he's cultivating loving kindness. So then he cultivated loving, but yet the dog was so badly rotten and infected, he couldn't bear it to open his eyes. So he closed his eyes and then lick, one by one, remove one by one. And then later on, he tried to lick, but the dog disappeared, as well as the maggots. Nobody's there. He looked, opened his eyes, and there was a Maitreya. Now the belief is, people say it was Maitreya, but Rongton says, no, it wasn't Maitreya. It actually was Shakyamuni Buddha. But because you see what you think it is, so he thought it was Maitreya, even though it was Shakyamuni Buddha. Because future Buddha can't appear in this present eon. He's got too busy. He's got jobs to do. He's got prior engagement up in Tushita heaven. What do you think? Maybe Maitreya could manifest everywhere. Anyway, the story goes that he had a great awakening because of his unconditional loving kindness to the dog. Then Asanga achieved great height of enlightenment. And then he had the belief that he received all this teaching from Maitreya, and therefore later on, they say that teaching was written in Tushita heaven. Maitreya taught him, and then he written down and gave it to the world. So that's the story. But according to Rongton, he's saying that it actually was not Maitreya, but because Asanga was praying and meditating to see Maitreya, he may have had the vision of Maitreya, but actually was Shakyamuni Buddha, who appeared in his meditations. But that's the story. In any case, Asanga did 12 laborious years of meditation retreat, after which he had a great realization, and then he wrote all these texts with or without direct aid of Maitreya or Shakyamuni Buddha. He definitely had a great opening and realization. Everybody seemed to edify the people's work, some divine authorship, don't they? So we have to test on human. We as a human readers, okay? Human readers have to test whether it's workable for human things or not. So whether it's a divine author or not. Anyway, so this book has survived among 4 other books. There are 5 books that Asanga wrote. This one called Uttaratantra Shastra, and then then Mahayana Sutra Alankara. That's a 2, and then there is 3 other works. So we won't go bog down with those names. They are called five texts of Maitreya. They're named after Maitreya, but they actually are written by Asanga. So Asanga is a historical person, and because all the Buddhist Shastras have authors, you have to give an author to it. The author is historical, so Asanga. So that's the story of the book, and now we will go into the actual text itself. So that's actually the tradition that people need to know a little bit about background of the author. And this text sits very comfortably in the Shastras, in the Tengyur, and it has got several Indian commentaries by Asanga himself and other commentaries as well. These are very old commentaries. And they were all translated into Tibetan and in other ancient languages, classical Chinese, even Persian and Japanese, they all were translated. But in Tibet, Asanga's texts, like Nagarjuna's, like Aryadeva's, like Chandrakirti, Viveka, and Shantideva, all of their works were treated as textbooks, and therefore this is one of the 13 major textbooks in the Tibetan Buddhist monastic curriculum. So that's the and this text has 404 verses. 404 verses. And so now we're going to go through the actual text itself. So I have called the topic for people to remember this text very easily, 7 Vajra points. 7 Vajra point is the actual topic of this text. But the traditional title of this text is called, is in Sanskrit called Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra. Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra. So let us learn about the meaning of the title, because the title of the text is very important, because then if you know the meaning of the title, you will know what is actually the contents of the text. Yeah. So therefore, first we look at the title, its meaning, and then secondly the salutation by the translators when they translated this. And of this, first we will look at the title and the meaning itself. The title itself, as I said, Mahayana. Mahayana, firstly, it indicates that this text belongs to Mahayana. Maha means great. Yana means vehicle. The word vehicle refers to that vehicle actually is a carriage, where objects or luggage that are stranded on the roadside or passenger are stranded, and without a vehicle they are stranded. So all sentient beings are stranded, and they need vehicle to get out of misery. So therefore, a vehicle, those who hops on the vehicle, whether it's great or small is a difference, but any vehicle will do. Otherwise, they're all stranded. They're all going round and round in circle, and they're never getting anywhere but the same place they started. Whether it's 10 years after, whether it's 20 years later, they're still repeating the same mistakes again and again and again, still have no sign of realizing that they should find a new vehicle. New vehicle means a mode of transportation, mode of getting them out of the flood, getting them out of the fire, getting them out of the famine. People are stuck. Samsara is the stranded sentient beings. And without a vehicle, they are stuck. They're dropping. They're going lower and lower and lower, and they're going in circle and circle. 10 years gone, 20 years gone, 30 years gone. They've got hardly many years left before they can correct themselves. So all sentient beings are stranded because of not finding a viable vehicle. So therefore, the yana is the vehicle. So those who have a vehicle, they will get out of there, they'll leave, and they go away, they go somewhere. So here the Mahayana, the great vehicle, there are many types of vehicles. Some vehicles are a little trishows, some are little scooters, some are little minis, those little minis. Others are jeeps. Others are big 60-seater vehicles. The trains are, wow, how many people travel in the trains? Mahayanas are great vehicles. So the word great vehicles. So when we refer to the word Maha, let me explain the meaning of the Maha. The meaning of the great vehicle are 7. The 7 points why it is Mahayana. Maha, in the terms of firstly objective of the Mahayana practitioner, should not be for his or her sake, for not just for this life, not for this body, for not just for gaining higher rebirth, or even arhathood for one's own sake. Therefore, first is the greatness of the objectives. The objectives, mikpachewa, we call mikpachewa. Mikpachewa means the objective of practicing Dharma is for the attainment of Buddhahood, perfect Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is the first of the 7 greatness. Second is the practice. The practice that you do for the benefit of others would require 6 paramitas. In every situation, you are able to intersect the 6 paramitas, and you engage your altruistic motivation with which the objective you have, and your main practice is the 6 perfections. How you do, just as we were saying, when you're listening to the Dharma, you can intersect all of the 6 paramitas, then you do the practice. Then when you do the 6 paramita practices, you will overcome all the antithesis of the 6 paramitas as the true origin of suffering and the truth of suffering, because practicing the 6 paramita is the truth of the path, and the annihilation of miserliness by generosity, lack of discipline by discipline, patience by impatience by patience, laziness by diligence, and lack of concentration by concentration, wrong view with the right wisdom. When you apply that, you will be practicing to annihilate the antithesis of the paramitas, and hence the true origin of suffering. So that's the practice. Quite a lot of you should be familiar with this. We have discussed at length how to practice 6 paramitas. So that's the 6. So the second of the 7 greatness is the greatness of the practice. Even you're doing some ordinary things to help some friend, it still can become the practice of the. You can in the meantime give somebody a lift or whatever, but still your motivation and the generosity and patience and concentration and carefulness which you do is the greatness of the practice. Drupachembo, yeah. And then the third greatness is the wisdom. The wisdom is that even if you practice all the above, but you do not make your back get broken by this. You don't get fatigued by doing good things and being resentful. No, you have this wisdom of not get attached to think I'm doing it for him. Not that. You never say you're doing it not because of you doing it, because others need you to do it. So it is your own voluntary, so you don't have any resentment. And you don't see that true self, truly existing self that is in the picture. There is no true self that truly exists, let alone in the practice that you did. So you have the wisdom to see the emptiness. Emptiness. So that's the greatness of the wisdom. Okay, greatness of the wisdom. Great jnana. You have to have great wisdom. This is wisdom seeing emptiness. Then the fourth is greatness of diligence. The diligence is that when you do the practices, you do with great joy and delight, not as a being worried and being discouraged and thinking I don't want to do this anymore. This is the last time I will do that kind of, But the back of an ants is very easy to break. Ants got 3 carriages. They're really easily breakable. Hardly. There isn't much to hold them together. They can break the back very quickly. Most people's back is so breakable because they don't have joy, neither in the beginning, nor in the middle, nor towards the end. But person who has taken the Mahayana vow, bodhicitta, have the diligence, the great diligence of overcoming your laziness and so on. And the 5th one is Mahaupaya. Mahaupaya is greatness of skillfulness. You don't use only one way of doing things. You use multifarious ways to work with different sentient beings according to different kind of predisposition and situations. You don't always try to do one way. If it doesn't work, you don't want to work with him or her. People are so lacking skillfulness. So a person who has a Mahayana objectivity need to upskill themselves with the Mahaupaya. Upaya means skillful method. Even if somebody is not doing much, just do with them and give them the credit. Do it so that they feel moved and inspired and supported. Not because you want to do it so that others are motivated. So don't go to a class or something or don't give a talk because you want to look good, but because it will encourage other people. And if you don't say, I don't say, everybody say, then nobody's daring to do, you know. You do it just to inspire others, and vice versa. That is the Maha Upaya. You need to skillfulness, you know. So don't look at the lack of skill in you, but the fitness and creativity of skillfulness. That's the fifth one. Greatness of the skillfulness. Sixth one is great attainment. Great attainment is that you never have to worry about, I did it, what I will need to compliment, I need the recognition. You never have the need to seek the approval of others. Even if other people are rejecting and denigrating you, still it is great attainment because it's good for your ego. Don't you think? Instead of getting compliment, you get criticism. Very good for the practitioner of Mahayana Buddhism. That's a challenging one, you know. Most people need compliment. All these compliment needy people. So no attainment, you know. Yeah, even you did all your effort and people have no sign of appreciation, but put you down, but still you feel all the blames, excellent attainment. In Lojong teachings, give all the credit of good things to others, accept all the blames on you. If you do this, it's a great attainment. Your Lojong, your mind training is now working. So great attainment is that you have to, it's not a small attainment, you know. Small attainment is when you do something nice, people give you a compliment, you become so happy. That's not attainment at all. That's a distraction. That's the small-minded people always needing compliment. No. Good practitioner need criticism. Not fall into the worldly dharmas, you know. Even praise, you don't get puffed up, you know. Puffed up, yeah. I'm trying to read the PU. SPU. Should be puffed up. You don't get puffed up when people praise you. You don't get sort of upset because people disparage you. Yeah, you say, oh, that's good. My ego needs a lot of pounding. You know, I have difficulty conquering my ego by myself. He's helping me. That's good. You know, so that's a great attainment. You know, great Mahasiddhi. You know, Mahasiddhi. You know, and the last is great activity. Great activity is that there is nothing that you do that has no benefit to others, because your motivation and all the six other things we mentioned are all well-rounded. So everything you do, and no matter how temporarily it's not so profitable or beneficial or whatever it is, you never lose faith in law of causality. Okay. So you don't complain about the result because the cause has been created before. You don't complain about the result in the future because you are meticulous in choosing one now. So the activity is very good. So these 7 points are very clearly mentioned in the text here. That the reason why we need to use the word. So these are the quotation from Mahayana Sutra Alankara, the meaning of the word Maha. So you know the word Mahayana tonight very well. How can you say, I study Mahayana Shastra without knowing what Mahayana is? Okay, so now at least you know what Mahayana is. So that's a Mahayana. Mahayana, now Uttaratantra. Now Uttara means a superior or highest. Highest refers to the highest. And then the word Tantra. Word Tantra here is not the esoteric meaning of what people think is Tantra or mantra. This has nothing to do with Tantra. This has to do with Tantra itself. What is Tantra? Tantra means continuum. The continuum, as I hear meaning, got the meaning of supreme continuum, Uttaratantra. And then this Uttaratantra continuum has a very good meaning relationship to understand the 7 Vajra points. 7 Vajra points is the subject of the text which you will be introduced tonight. And the Tibetan text goes to explain that word continuum here refers to the Buddha nature. Buddha nature means, it's Buddha nature that we call Tantra. Tantra means continuity. Like a river is continually flowing, it never stops flowing. Like that, the Buddha nature is continuously flowing. Like I might be saying some different words here, but this Wi-Fi is continuously now I'm using the Wi-Fi as a continuum, okay? Wi-Fi as a continuum, so that there is no interruption, okay? Hopefully this reception is not interrupted. That's called cause continuum. Without the Wi-Fi working, you will not hear me, and I wouldn't be able to say anything. I think only the few people in this room will hear. Otherwise, no such thing, because this is a cause continuum, okay? Cause continuum. So as you look at the chart where I put the continuum, correlation of the 3 continuum with the 7 Vajra points. Cause continuum is the Buddha nature. There are 7 points in this whole 404 verses. They are all under these 7 points. And the fourth point is the Buddha nature, the cause. Cause is the Buddha nature. Because you have the cause that is Buddha nature, therefore when you cultivate it, it will be awakened as a Buddha. So therefore, this very cause continuum that we have, that is the subject of Tathagata Garbha. There are few terminology for the Tathagata Garbha is the Sanskrit terminology. Tathagata means thus gone, means enlightened one. Garbha means womb, womb, the womb of enlightenment. So you are fertile. Okay? You're not only fertile, but you're virgin. You have the fertility to give birth to the Buddha. So Buddha nature means Tathagata Garbha. Garbha, when somebody is pregnant in Sanskrit, they call Garbhavati. Garbhavati means pregnant. So first you have to have the Garbha. Garbha means the womb. You have to have the womb. That womb is the Buddha nature. Tathagata Garbha is the very nature of you have Buddha nature. That is, you have kindness, you wish to practice kindness, you want to practice patience, you are tolerant, you actually feel the sufferings of others, and you quickly go and do something for others. Every sentient being, you can see they have sign of Buddha nature. They have sign of Tathagata Garbha in their mind. And so this basic goodness, Tathagata Garbha means basic fundamental goodness. Some people translate as a Buddha potential, Buddha nature, or the seed of the Buddha, or the Buddha germ. Some people translate as a Buddha germ because birth is caused by germ also. germ of Buddha. You have the germ of Buddha. So that's the cause continuum. And this is between the sentient being and the Buddha, there is no difference between the cause continuum. But cause continuum that is remaining dormant but not being actualized become just like what we call inactive Buddha nature, uncultivated Buddha nature. So the path continuum, which is the 5th and 6th and 7th Vajra point, which is the enlightenment, that is the Buddhahood, and the quality of the Buddhahood, and the activity of Buddha. These 3 are the path continuum. So we have to attain enlightenment. And to attain enlightenment, we have to cultivate the enlightenment thought, bodhicitta. So when you consciously cultivate Buddha nature, cultivate bodhicitta, that's called cultivated Buddha nature. not just the in nature Buddha nature. Natural Buddha nature is one thing, the cultivated Buddha nature is another. Natural Buddha nature is there unless it's cultivated, it remains uncultivated. Like a seed in the jar is never growing. When that seed falls into the soil and water and right temperature, then it grows. So when you and I have the precious human rebirth and consciously give rise to bodhicitta, and that is what we call path continuum. But you need to consciously embrace bodhicitta. That's the enlightenment, because enlightenment is made out of wish and engaging in the actions and conduct of Buddha enlightenment. So therefore, path continuum is constitute the three middle Vajras. So last Vajras, fifth, sixth, and seventh. Fifth one is the enlightenment. The enlightenment here refers to one who exhausts all the faults, one who realizes all the qualities. And so that's enlightened one. And then only one who's fully enlightened one and have achieved enlightenment, he or she has all the qualities. So the whole chapter on the quality will come. Now, this is the nature of the Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra. Method of teaching is, it is like the method of how our teaching is given is, they say, given in the shape of a grain. The grain is a little bit middle, broad in the middle, and small, sharper in the edges. So we give this brief summation of the whole 404 verses contained in the Vajra points, and then expand each of them through chapter by chapter and explain them. So we'll come to each of these chapter by chapter later on, qualities and then enlightened activities. So therefore we have to do the enlightenment as the path continuum. So Tantra refers to path continuum, and then the result continuum is where we actually realize the Buddhahood. And then result is of the 7 Vajra points, the Buddha nature is the cause continuum, and enlightenment, quality, and activity is the path continuum, and result continuum is the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, which are the first, second, and third Vajra points. And that's why the meaning of the title, what we call meaning of the title, what we have here is Uttaratantra. Uttaratantra. So that'll do. And then meaning of Shastra. The Shastra. The Shastra, again, in the Tibetan text, it says, Nyomo dhanam malu chobata, ngendo sila doji kayimba, shogyo yonde chena tenju de nipon de da shengelu na mes. So it says the meaning of the Shastra, etymologically, is conquering all the foes of afflictions. What it does is the commentary literature, the treatises, we translate as treatises, Shastra, what the treatises do is treatises teaches us how to identify our inner foes that we previously never thought we had one. So you develop a ability to sight and recognize your foes as the real foes, as your inner foes, that is your afflictions. Not only that, which is very difficult to do, is to recognize inner foes as foes. And then when you recognize inner foes, the outer foe becomes the secondary. It's less important. You don't want to waste time fighting in the wrong barking at the wrong tree. You discover the real foe in you. And not only recognize the difficult to recognize inner foe, but conquer them by listening to Shastra. By listening to the teachings, it teaches us how to recognize the foe, inner one, and how to conquer the hard to conquer one, conquering not just gross ones, even subtle ones. All the foes refers to not only the afflictive foes, but also cognitive foes, true obscuration, conquering all the foes of affliction, and it protects. It protects means the knowledge of the Dharma, the power of knowledge empowers the person to protect himself or herself from falling into lower realms. We're not talking about falling into lower realms in next life, okay? Falling in the lower realms in this life, in this poor me mentality, animal instinct, in this hungry ghost mentality, always wanting and craving and never contented with oneself. That's already a lower rebirth. Even in a human form, many people are in animal realm, always fearful, never secure, always anxious and fearful, like animals always being running hither and thither, every noise that makes them to run around. A lot of people are humans, only in form, but they're mostly in the lower realms because they completely oscillated, intoxicated by this poor me mentality. Who is after me? Always fearful of oneself, always afraid of denying sickness, denying death, denying loss. But these are all necessary. It's just, if there's a rise, there will be fall. If there was a youth, there will be aging. If there was a health, there will be ill health. If there was a right, there will be left. If there was a high, there will be low. But yet one wanted to high, but one reject the low. That's animal rebirth. So people are actually falling in the lower realms while in the human realm. They live in nice houses, but they are never able to sleep. They don't toss and turn. They're drinking alcohol and they're switching on this and switching on that. Gosh, completely lost because they are falling in the lower realms because they don't know how to conquer the real enemy. They don't recognize the real enemy. But those who have heard the Shastras, Shastra is the Tencho in Tibetan. The word Tencho in Tibetan, very beautiful. Ten means to show. Cho means to, that which teaches you, shows you the way, and the way that shows you, when you have seen it, it restores you. That's what it says. Shastra possesses two qualities, restoration and protection. What does it do? It restores your dignity. It restores your Buddha nature. It restores your humanity. It restores your Bodhisattva vows, Pratimoksha vows, and whatever commitment you might have. And therefore, basic goodness, basic commitment, basic principles of yourself. It restores your quality of Buddha nature, and it protects you from falling into the lower realms of animals, the hungry ghosts, hell. People who are angry are in hell. People who are upset are in hell. People who are jealousy are in demigod realm. They're not in human form. What's the point of having a nice house, nice car, nice job, but one's mind is completely havoked by these sufferings? So those who have heard the Dharma, we were talking before, listen to the Dharma like a nectar, and then you will heal. Dharma, every drop of Dharma is like a balm on your infected skin of the body. So you will heal your mind and body. You will restore your sense of dignity. Instead of angry at your mom, you will develop kindness to her. Instead of feeling ungrateful towards her, you will restore your friendship towards her. Why? Because it says, when you understand Dharma, it will restore your friendship. It will restore your humility. It will restore your generosity, restore your gratefulness, restore your lost memory of her kindness, and regain your lost respect to her. And then you completely overcome your self-importance and childishness. All of these will be conquered. And protection. Yeah, you will be protected from revisiting those bad narratives. You will not, because you have heard the Dharma. Because you've heard the Dharma and you really wanted to clean your ears, now your ear has some worthiness. People want to have all these headphones, little white stuff put in the ear. Now you're listening something useful for a change. Real music, because you're hearing something that restores your humanity, that restores your heart and your goodness. That is why I call it Shastra. Shasana Dara. Shasana means that the very doctrine of the Buddha. It protects you. Shasana Tantra. It's called Shasana and Tantra because it protects you from your wrong views, wrong ways, because you've heard the way, you have found the way how not to. So, Shastra, Shasana and the Shasana and Antra, those two joined together, and protection and restoration. Others do not possess them. Other traditions do not possess. They think it's created by somebody else. they think if you pray to these, you will gain a front seat of the heaven and that sort of thing. Others just completely make these false claims. They make false promises, and they think so. Others do not possess these teachings. This is not arrogant statement. This is meaning you have to check. If others possess, go for it. We Buddhists will not say, "Oh, damn it, we lost one Buddhist member to the Jehovah's Witness." We will not do that. Okay, good on him, good on you. If they found a way to restore themselves and become good, so it's very important that we understand the meanings. So that's why the meaning of the title is very important. Now in Buddhist tradition, the reason of the title is many purposes. Firstly, if there is no title, you wouldn't know what to look for. If you didn't sign up for this course, you wouldn't know which Zoom ID you're going to, isn't it? So like that. So there's many purposes. Many Buddhist shastras and Buddha vachanas are named and titled according to many different ways. Sometimes they're named after the number of the verses. Like Chatushataka, there's a 400 verse one, and various texts are named like Asasasika is 8,000 verses. They're named after the number of verses. They don't say what it is. They say how many verses that exist. Who cares how many verses there? You don't know the meaning. So that's the things that are named after the numbers. And sometimes things are named after the person who requested. Yeah. Some things, sutras are requested by somebody else, so the name sutra is named after the people, like the meeting between father and son, like Shakyamuni Buddha and Shuddhodana met after he finished his enlightenment, go visit. So there is a whole discourse named titled to the meeting. So meeting between father and mother. They don't say what's the contents of it. So if you're interested in a meeting between father and son, you can read it, but there's nothing much about the father and son. It's all about other things, So quite confusing. Okay? And then some sutras are named after a place where the thing occurred, It's named after the place. Other things is named after the timing. And some are named after the topic. That's this one. This Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra is the topic, is the continuum, Buddha nature, cause continuum of Mahayana. So it is a treatise or doctrine which is explaining that. And for people of superior intelligence, when they see a title, they could almost know whether it's belong to sutra or the Vinaya or the Abhidharma or Tantra. They can tell straight away from that. So this is confusing, isn't it? Most people might think it's Tantra. But superior people who know the teaching, they know it's not Tantra. They know it's not Tantra. It's all about it's actually not esoteric, it's exoteric. So, but people of mediocres, they could at least tell to which group it belongs to. For the inferior, at least they can find the book in the library. The title. Don't you think so? So this is not my makeup. This is all in the commentaries. So they have reason why they call these titles. Okay. So that'll do. That is the title. And now second is the salutation. Salutation is the actual, the reason why there is salutation is that both the Tibetan Indian Panditas, and the Tibetan translator Ngolo Zawalun Den Sherap, and they both do the collaborated translation work, and they added this word homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ngolo Den Sherap lived in 12th century, and whoever his Indian counterpart, they both put this together. And in the early days, during the tradition of translating texts, they have the tradition of every translator and pandita collaboratively put whoever the deity's name they want to put there, whoever they chose. Later on, during the Tibetan king Kotiralpa, he's the third important Dharma kings, he made a ruling as a result of Tibetan language revision that in order to classify the Vinaya, Abhidharma and Sutras separately, the salutation should be standardized so that people can recognize whether the text belongs to Sutra, Vinaya or Abhidharma. So it is said that any Vinaya text should have the salutation, doesn't matter who translated it, is saying homage to the omniscient one. Because the Vinaya is all to do with the Buddha himself and anyone who's following the Vinaya rules as a monastic. So that was the ruling. Any text that is the Sutra, which is the discourses, they should have the salutation homage to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Because often the sutras are related with Arhats and Bodhisattvas who request the Buddha, who are the interlocutors of the discourse, and therefore the homage is given to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And those texts belong to Abhidharma, in which the subject is from very gross subject as aggregates to from very, very subtle subject as consciousness. Because even at the aggregate has a gross aggregate such as form, and then subtle aggregates like feeling, and then consciousness and so on. All of these are Abhidharma. Abhidharma means supreme knowledge. For that, then they make a ruling that homage should be paid to Bodhisattva Manjushri, because only Bodhisattva's Manjushri's discriminating wisdom will bless the individuals to be able to do that. So that's the ruling that was instituted. Another reason why the translator Pandita and Lotsawas put this salutation at the beginning are threefold. Firstly, so that both Indian Pandita and Tibetan Lotsawas do not fight and give up the work interrupted. So they both make a prayer so that they start the work and finish. You wouldn't believe how many works are left unfinished when people don't work harmoniously together. So many jobs started. I've seen some building just up the road. It's finished, but due to the dispute between the owner and the builder, that nobody you occupy, the building is completely covered in like that. So there are lots of obstacles wherever you start. So that's in order to remove such obstacles between the Lotsawa and Pandita work together. That's one purpose, so they pay homage. Second is so that they not only they start in harmony, but they also finish in great harmony. Give credit to each other, not saying my work and your work and all that sort of thing. All these are important, self-importance. It's in modern academia, you have to say, oh, this is my original research writing. It's so arrogant, so dangerous, isn't it? You have all these 700 or so footnotes and all the other people's work, and you think your original work, which is really ridiculously plagiaristic. It's not original at all. You poked your nose in the National Library for 3 months. Otherwise, you could have written all in your room. But no, if you didn't use other people's research, you would have never been able to write one. So, in order to avoid such arrogance with authorship in Buddhist scholarship, so they pay homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or whoever that is. And third and last purpose is so that their translation actually is not to get a good mark from their two miserable examiners, but actually benefits the people. Yes, their translation has lived 1400 years. Come on, that says a lot. 1400 years. Their translation has survived and retranslated now in 30 languages. 30 international languages, the Mahayana Sutta Alankara already translated and people are studying. So that is the purpose of the salutations. So So now we come to the main text itself. The main text itself has 5 chapters. And the 5 chapters are, as I said, chapter 1 is the Buddha nature itself, essence of the Tathagatas, which is Tathagata Garbha. We were talking essence is Tathagata Garbha or Tathagata Garbha or Sugata Garbha. Sometimes, and Buddha nature is a modern kind of translation. It actually not technical translation. It's a Tathagata Garbha. In English, we really can say the embryo of the Buddhahood, embryo of the Buddha, seed of the Buddha, or the essence of the Buddha. So essence of the Tathagata is first chapter. First chapter covers the first 4 Vajra points. First 4 Vajra points. It has 167 verses. Okay, so all the first 4 Vajra points are in the first chapter. And then the second chapter is the enlightenment, which is the quality of actual enlightenment, and that constitute the fifth Vajra point, which has verse number 168 till 240. So that's 72 verses for that. Then chapter 3 has the qualities, all the qualities of Buddha. You hear the talk about qualities of Buddha's body, like 112 marks, 32 major marks, 80 minor marks. All these are listed. Not only they're listed, they're explained why each of them are result of what merit accumulating. So these are all listed. Not just physical qualities, but also 60 melodious qualities of Buddha's speech, not to mention his omniscient mind. All these are in the 6th Vajra point, which has 38 verses in that chapter. And then the 4th chapter is the enlightened activities, the Buddha activities. Means all these things what we have today, the Dharma is so well received and taught and practiced, and this is Buddha activity. This is incessant activities of Buddha. Buddha activity doesn't start and finish. It has if you shoot an arrow, the duration the arrow flies from here and until it reaches the target, arrow is continuously flying. Yeah, that's activity of arrow. Likewise, Buddha has shot the arrow of the Dharma, and there is a duration for many eons until which this Buddha activity will not stop. Even the monastery get destroyed or whatever, the Buddha Dharma activity is constantly pulsating. This is covered in the 4th chapter called Buddha activity, the 7th Vajra point. 7th Vajra point. This has quite a number of verses, 96 verses. 96 verses in that 4th chapter. Then 5th chapter talks about the benefit. It is not the kind of the one of the seven Vajra points, but it's talking about the benefits of all the 7 Vajra points. Usually sometimes we hear about Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and so on, but we don't really hear them in detail. What constitutes Buddha? What is the Dhamma? What is Sangha? So all of these 7 points are called Vajra points. Why they're called Vajra points? Vajra means adamantine. Vajra means unbreakable, that could not be broken. So people who do not have good merit and good patience to listen and understand and contemplate and meditate on the meaning, they cannot fathom them. Why I want to study about these 7 Vajra points? Most people don't have that. But those who have the Mahayana inclination, Mahayana aptitude, for them it will be like it is not kind of substance Vajra we are talking about. They will recognize the word Vajra has a meaning of emptiness, also means indestructible, and also means what is truth, what is hard, what is indestructible, what is ultimate. So word Vajra has a meaning of ultimate meaning. This ultimate meaning is difficult to fathom unless you have merit. But those people who can appreciate the coherence of these 7 Vajra points, they will be able to accrue all the benefits listed in the 5th chapter. So that's the kind of a, what do you call, overall summary or introduction to the topic of the 7 Vajra points. So that's just mainly the introductory part of it. Now tonight we're going to cover at least the first 2 verses of the 1st chapter. The 1st chapter, as you see here before you, has quite a lot of verses, but we will just start with the first 2, because the main root text has, as I said, verses. Some are 7-syllable verses, some are 9-syllable verses, some are 11-syllable verses. So these are quite not consistent. Sometimes the verses go very long, like 9 or 13 syllables. Others are 9 syllables. Others are 15 syllables. So you can tell. So there are quite a few translations of these texts available, but they are hardly, they're all still done in a very amateur people without much collaborative work with the Tibetan text. Some Tibetan senior teachers were teaching, and some of the translators didn't know really Tibetan very well, but they sort of took notes and translated. So there are quite a few texts available, by the way, on the net, root text and well as commentary if you look at it. But what I've decided to do is I will try to translate the number of verses we'll cover each week and then provide them as we have done here. And then, because I have the benefit of comparing and relating to the Tibetan text, root text, as well as commentary before me, so therefore I'm much more confident doing that. And the commentary, by the way, that we are going to rely is commentary by Rongten. Again, it's Rongten's commentary. Rongten is very famous as one of the earliest Tibetan commentators on all the Indian Shastras, particularly all the 5 works of Asanga, as well as all the Abhidharma and Madhyamika, Perfection Wisdom. He is very famous. His textbook and commentary are studied by all Tibetan lineages because he's contemporary of Tsongkhapa, and he's highly learned, and he's the founder of the Nalanda monastery. And so I heard the teaching on this text from the late Khenpo Kedrup. Khenpo Kedrup is classmate of Khenchen Ape Rinpoche and Khenchen Rinchen from the Dzongsa Tibetan Monastery Institute in Eastern Tibet in 1974. And at that time, His Eminence Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche invited Khenpo Kedrup deliberately to Lumbini, give the teaching to him, And of course, Khenpo Kedrup was very delighted that he can offer the teaching to Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, So I was never a prime recipient. I was just always sitting on the side, Sangboi shola chachang. In Tibetan, we have a saying, Sangboi shola chachang, ngembe shola gyardung. Sangboi shola chachang means if you accompany good people, you will get good drinks. So because I was with His Eminence, then I also got the teaching. Ngembe shola gyardung means if you go with thugs, you get beaten. If you spend time with the thugs and robbers, you get beaten with the other robbers. So I got this because I was attendant to His Eminence, my teacher, and who received this teaching from this very wandering Khenpo. He was, all the other Khenpos, his classmates, are highly revered and receiving teachings, have permanent places. But this Khenpo was wandering hither and thither, rather like a wandering yogi. He's quite a yogi. They all are, but some are already sort of have regal treatment and they just don't wander off like that. But Khenpo Kedrup came wandering as a pilgrimage, and then Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche seized him, and you must give teaching. I haven't received the teaching on this Uttaratantra, and he gave this teaching. I remember him so clearly, even though I was very young, I was not even 20. But yeah, I was just 19, by the way. I was just 19. And So I heard this, and he made a huge impact on my mind. He says, 7 Vajra points. He says, don't think about the long title. Think of 7 Vajra points. He says, if you think of Mahayana, Uttaratantra, it's so mouthful, but you still haven't got the much. But think of 7 Vajra points, and then you realize which of the Vajra points are cause continuum, which are the path continuum, which are result continuum. So hence I put them in the table, this for you to also to remember the 7 Vajra points as a subject of meditation. Not only that we will, of course, this text will take at least the whole year to go through, but nevertheless, you will keep revisiting these 7 Vajra points in your mind. Okay, so now coming back to the root text, chapter 1 first is called the essence of the Tathagatas, and this is captured here in the root text when the entire corpus of the treatise is condensed. So here Asanga is saying when the entire 404 verses were to be condensed together, there are 7 Vajra points. And these 7 Vajra points are the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, Buddha nature, enlightenment, qualities, and activity as the last one. So this means that this is giving what we call overall summary of the entire corpus of the text. First is the Buddha, and then the Dharma, because without the Buddha, without the coming of the historical Buddha, you would not even have the Dharma. So only his attainment of enlightenment then gave rise to his realization of the Buddha became the Dharma. And even realization of the Buddha, which is Dharma of realization, unless he taught it, it would not be the Dharma that people can hear. You cannot, if the Buddha didn't teach, there would not be Sangha. So that's the sequence of the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And only by getting to hear the teachings by the Sangha, so the Buddha teaching the Dharma and Sangha hearing the Dharma, and then made the people to identify their own intrinsic nature. Come, that's the Buddha nature. They recognize I too have Buddha potential, and all sentient beings have Buddha potential. I should never overlook and sort of cut anyone. Everybody has Buddha nature. So therefore, the Sangha, Mahayana Sangha, always sees everyone has Buddha nature, no matter how deluded or wrong and unskillful some may be, they still have Buddha nature. There, the seed has to be met with the right conditions. So you have the very amazing way of viewing each other, because you don't discriminate any sentient being saying he is this, she is this, they are that, they are not that. You don't say that. No matter how temporarily different they are, karmically speaking, they all have the Buddha nature. So one who has the refuge in the triple gem will always think that. And once who have that, then the enlightenment, then they're starting to experience enlightening kind of openings in the mind. So therefore the enlightenment. What does enlightenment do? It slowly restores your goodness and deletes your negativities. Deletes your negativities and accomplish your qualities. And when you do that, then the incessant increasement of enlightenment qualities outperform the negativities by qualities. Then you have the qualities. You have qualities of humility, qualities of acceptance, qualities of understanding, qualities of forgiveness, quality of generosity, those who lack generosity, and all of these, and so on. And then the Buddha activity. So out of this, the seventh one is the last one, because it's the activity of the Buddha that continue to benefit. Buddha himself came and disappeared, passed away in nirvana after 81 years, but his activity of the Dharma has never stopped humming. So therefore the Buddha activity is continuously humming, and that's why these are the these are the 7 Vajra points. That's a kind of sort of summary of the entire 404 verses. Now the second point is now what you call how these 7 points are not just some Asanga made up that based on the sutras. How these 7 points are all based on original discourses of the Mahayana Buddhist texts. So here we will identify what we call the individual Mahayana sutras, and how each of the seven points, Vajra points, are taught in individual Mahayana sutras, and how all of the 7 Vajra points is taught in one Mahayana sutra. So that is covered in the covered here in next verse. These 7 Vajra points are in a natural order. The order that you see, first the Buddha. Natural means how they come about one from another. So the Dharma is rare because it's rarer than the Buddha. If there is no Buddha, Dharma would not happen. So therefore, only by coming of the Buddha, then came the Dharma. So the natural order is, because those who understood and heard the Dharma, they became Sangha. And those who practice the Dharma as a Sangha, then they actually germinated their Buddha nature. Yeah? When their Buddha nature is germinated, they are experiencing enlightenment. Enlightenment is not levitating 7 times height of the Bodhi tree, okay? So don't wait, that will take a long time. Enlightenment means slowly shifting your narratives, slowly de-stressing your shoulder tensions, slowly removing the wrong views, and slowly, when you nurture your Buddha nature by promising to practice altruism and so on, you will starting to experience openings. Enlightenment means openings. You're blossoming. Enlightenment. And then what do you notice? You will develop small qualities. The qualities of humility or generosity or diligence and meditation and prayer, and you believe in kindness, and all those things will slowly mushroom. So these are in natural order, aren't they? Qualities, and then not only the qualities but the activities. One should know the first three. The first three is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, deriving from the introductory. So now this refers to the sutra, because there is one sutra. It's called sutra is the Dharani Shwara Raja Sutra. There is one Mahayana sutra. Sutra is a discourse. Okay, this is now in the Buddha Vachana. Buddha Vachana are the words of the Buddha. Shastras are commentaries. So you can't have Shastras without its source going back, traceable in the actual sutras. So therefore, what Asanga is doing is he's not making this up, and therefore these 7 Vajra points that he got to talk about are contained in this one sutra called Dharani Shwara Raja Sutra. But so that's the way all of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha are taught in the introductory chapter. So the introductory, deriving from the introductory, and later 4. Later 4 means the other 4 remaining Vajra points. Those are the enlightenment, the quality, activity, and so on. These 4 are from the wise and victorious qualities. So there are 5 specific sutras. 5 specific sutras from which each of these teachings were drawn out. For instance, there's one sutra called Lakpa Sambaten Do, means sutra teaching on the extraordinary sincerity, teaches the first 3, triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, are all taught in that sutra. And then the fourth Vajra point, which is the Buddha nature, is taught in the Peltib Mepe Do, the sutra in which shows there is neither increase nor decrease in the qualities of Buddha nature. Buddha nature doesn't increase or decrease. Buddha nature is constant. hopefully the Wi-Fi is constant. if Wi-Fi is coming and going, there will be no continuity. Okay. So like that, Buddha nature is a never rising, never falling. There is no season, no seasonal changes in the Buddha nature. Sometimes called the Uttaratantra, meaning it is unchanging. Some people translate it as changeless, superior, supreme, and changeless nature. So that's taught in that sutra. And then the fifth Vajra point, which is enlightenment, is the captured in the sutra called Changchup Sempa Pantingin Do. This is the Bodhisattva Sumala in Srimala Bodhisattva Srimala Sutra named after Bodhisattva Srimala. And then likewise the quality, which is the sixth Vajra points, again are taught in one sutra called the sutra which explains the lack of increase and decrease on the qualities of the Buddha nature. Okay, and then the seventh one, which is the activities, that is taught in one sutra named Teshin Shikbe Yondenda Ishisami Kibe Yulanjukben Do, means a sutra which explains the inconceivable transcendental wisdom and qualities of the Tathagatas. So therefore, each of the seven Vajra points are specifically taught in those specific sutras. Then, as well as the main sutra there is called Dharani Swaraja Sutra. In that sutra, even though in one sutra it talks all seven of them. So what is Asanga saying is that these seven Vajra points are not something that he made up, but he's relying on the works of Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, so that's what my argument. My argument is, how could Maitreya teach something that Shakyamuni Buddha didn't teach? So all the source and source of the text is all referring to the very many discourses taught by Shakyamuni Buddha, and so therefore it has to be relativized as a historic text, not kind of mythical origin, that kind of divine authorship came involved, but actually it is Asanga himself who mastered the Buddhist scriptures, Buddha Vachanas, and other Shastra by senior teachers like Nagarjuna and other senior Indian Mahapanditas writing. He mastered all of that, and therefore he made it very clear that these teachings that he's got to explain are all came from these seven specific sutras, all of them in which these are grown from. So what does this do is, therefore, it says the meaning of the what we will cover are all based on authentic traceable Mahayana sutras, and the Shastras are therefore explanation. And so you cannot say what are you explaining without the base to explain on. You are explaining and expounding what is contained in the seven sutras, which are extracted and put in a very structured form of these seven chapters that we find. But when you look at the sutras themselves, it's a little bit difficult to work out where a chapter begins, and so there becomes some ongoing conversations, So that's why sutras are not easy to read, understand, and that's why later Indian masters like Nagarjuna and Asanga went in great length to synthesize the meanings of the sutras and on one way, and elaborate the meanings on another, and therefore making it twice the longer the body of the actual Shastras than the actual original text they are making the commentary on. And so you could therefore say, is this therefore not a commentary on those seven sutras? Of course there is, yeah. But they don't call this as a commentary on the seven sutras because the topic of the seven sutras are titled very differently. But it rather focuses on the seven Vajra points, drawing the essence from each of those 7 sutras, and then brought out here. So in this way, we will conclude here tonight with the very important introductory background of the Uttaratantra, the 7 Vajra points, as well as the summary of what is the work going to elaborate based on these 7 Mahayana sutras. And because each of the chapters goes in great length, this will suffice for tonight from my end. So unless you have 1 or 2 questions or remarks, we will conclude in a minute. If you have, please put your hands up and unmute and use the Wi-Fi continuum. There's a point. Can you explain the difference between Tathagata and the Buddha, please? Is it? Yeah. Well, Tathagata and Buddha are both epithet of the same thing. Epithet means synonyms. We will always refer to all the Buddhas as the Tathagata. Sometimes we call Sugatas. Tatha means thus. Gata means gone. Thus gone means enlightened ones who have gone from this world of samsara to the world of not this world, that is non-samsara. So it means one who has gone from this world as a part of samsara, but who has transcended that, exhaust all the faults, and accomplish all the qualities. When we refer to the word Buddha, Buddha is made out of 2 words in Tibetan. Sang, ye. Sang means one who has woken up, awakened one. One who has awakened from the sleep of ignorance. And word ye means one whose knowledge, whose lotus flower of knowledge has fully blossomed. So the enlightened one, the awakened one, is the actual translation of the Buddha. That word Tathagata means actually thus gone, and also refers to necessarily enlightened one. Tathagata is epithet of the Buddha. You don't call Bodhisattva Tathagata. You call Tathagata who's Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha who's Tathagata. So the Tathagata is an epithet and a synonym of the Buddha, as is the Sugata, as well as the Samyak Sambuddha. Samyak Sambuddha is another term. Hope that helps. So you have to. Another reason why I didn't mention is why they put the Sanskrit title and the use of the name, modern translation English Buddhist teaching in English require us to use many Sanskrit terminology in order to leave a good, blessed impression on some Sanskrit terminology in our mind, so that we also know what must be like to have everything in Sanskrit and nobody understand it. And so we learn to rejoice the great work of the translators of Tibet and Indian Panditas working in collaboration. So good Buddhist books these days also has a glossary in the back of it, so you can look at those things when you do read. Sugata, Tathagata, and Buddha. These are all synonyms, but each of them can be etymologically explained, having the different meanings. And that's why we will, when we go through the whole chapter on that, each of the 7 Vajra points, all of these will be greatly expanded. So with this we'll now conclude, everyone. Thank you for all of your very attentive participation. And so next week I will be able to email you the text we will use. And in the meantime, thank you for your attention and good participation, and everybody for being here and dedicating your valuable time in listening and contemplating, and then making our ear worthwhile, and even more if we apply them, because there shouldn't be, the Wi-Fi should be continuous. Your continuum, your Buddha nature is now activated. So don't deactivate it. Always stay fully present and see that in you, see that in others. Not let the things obscure. Not let the things obscure. They are all temporary. They are all temporary, and don't those temporary things. Don't let the small things hide the big picture. So keep the big picture, that we all have Buddha nature, we all have kindness, and everybody mean very well. When you stay in that way, you are actually maintaining the path continuum, which is the result, as a result of hearing the cause continuum, qualities of Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha, because then and the quality of Buddha nature and enlightenment, and when we beginning to blossom ourselves, grow ourselves, consciously give rise to thoughts of altruism and selflessness and compassion, then you can see your continuum is always flowing. Even in deep sleep, your Buddha nature is continuously growing. So when you deliberately awaken the bodhicitta and renew your bodhicitta with refuge, of course it becomes even more activated. So stay active. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's do the dedication merits of this session. Om Bade Mere Mere Havarga Adepa Zage Om Neze Me Ale Bere Dabe from the Arjana Pada Desene Herenda Mahayana Jeje Vajra Mereda Havega Mehobe Begas Deleveza Choedak Mahayana Jeje Kareje Manju Shinyode Asama Vajra Delewa Alohe Ode Example Aja de Dike Ode Mede Excele Bodhicitta Teba where it has no yet where it has been born meeting freely without degeneration. Thank you, everyone.